Coming up on this episode of SEVA TV,
we share immigration stories, fight for women's rights, and tackle the tax inequality.
Stay tuned for all this and more, only on SEVA TV. Hi, and welcome to SEVA TV. My name's Nabayo.
And I'm Charlie.
And we'll be your hosts today as we strive for liberty and justice for all.
Our first story for you today begins with the Ukrainian American dream. Breanna from Campo High School would like to share her mother's journey from Ukraine to the United States.
This documentary is about my family's struggles and how they came to America and how they hope to have a great life in America. My family always wanted their story to be out there. Once I learned how to make videos and how to put videos together, I thought it would be great to surprise them with a video on their journey here to the USA. I hope people learn that all immigrants that are in America worked really hard to get to the place where they are today. My favorite part about making it was probably learning more things about what my mom had to say about their journey here to America. When I worked on this, I learned that editing an interview, it's very difficult, especially if it was a 15-minute long interview. You had to cut it up and take out all the clips. Some of them are even good, but you have to take out all the clips that don't matter and put it all together into a shorter video. So I think video is a powerful tool because you can convey a message in a video to the audience, and they could understand that message better than how they would in different ways.
My name is Mira Maslyanka, and we came to America mostly for the freedom and opportunity. We were looking for the opportunity to raise kids in a better environment for them, and also to have a chance to get education. Before we came to America, we lived in Ukraine. At that time, it was USSR, not Ukraine itself, but USSR. It was different, much different. Before we came, we heard a lot of things about America. It depends what sources. USSR told us a lot of stuff that America has a lot of homeless people, a lot of hatred. There is no chances to find a job. It was propaganda in their way. For us, America was really what we've heard of. It was rich country. It was much easier for the people to live and to work, which is not always true. Well, our journey to America was really long. We started in 1989 in October, and we came to America in February of 1990. We started from Ukraine, and we went through Czechoslovakia, through Austria. We spent 2 weeks in Austria. And also we spent 3.5 months in Italy. And from Italy, we came to New York. And from New York, we came to California, Sacramento. All our documents were made for us to go to Israel. When we came to Austria, we switched, I would say, journey to America, because lots of people, lots of our friends went before us to America, so we decided to switch to America also. What we left behind, it was family, of course. It was grandparents of our kids, for our kids, yes, and our families. So our family came later, like in a few years, they started to come. We were trying to learn English. We learned quite a bit. When we stayed in Italy, we tried to learn words and words, but when we came to America, well, It was difficult. We could not, even those words that we knew already, we just could not understand. We tried so hard to learn English. It just impresses me. Our kids were little when we came here. The oldest was 2.5 and my son was 1 year old. I stayed with kids, and later on, little by little, we moved on. We start to live in apartment, and then we moved. In 6 years, we moved to a house. To become a citizen of United States, it took quite a long time. After 5 or 6 years living in America, we took a test for citizenship and we passed it, and we became citizens of America. America was everything we expected to be, but we are happy. To be an American means to work hard, to be free. You can worship God the way you want. You can have opportunity to accomplish your dream. I am proud to be an American now.
People from all over the world immigrate from their homelands to become American citizens. Next up, George tells us about what it was like for his mom when she first arrived here from Mexico.
Over time, people move to different countries, and these people are called immigrants.
I came to the U.S. in 1987. I came from Guerrero, Mexico. I came to U.S. for more opportunities. I became a legal citizen in 1997. To become a citizen of the U.S., I needed to be 5 years a resident, and then I needed to take a test, and you need to have a clean record, like no felonies or no traffic tickets, stuff like that.
The test she's talking about is the naturalization test. This test is about U.S. history and laws, and the government provides materials like textbooks that the people can use to study.
My first job I had was working on a field.
Even though less than 5% of the workforce is immigrants, 40% of the agricultural workforce is made up of both illegal and legal immigrants, according to the Center for Immigrant Studies.
I'm really grateful for being in this country because I consider that my children and my whole family has a good environment. Sadly, in Mexico, there's a lot of violence and it's a really sad environment over there. So I think I feel pretty safe here.
So for whatever reason people have for coming, we should be more accepting of them.
Votes for the women. On June 4th, 1919, Congress passed the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote in public elections. 100 years later, and they have come far, but we still have a long way to go before receiving equality between men and women. For more on this, we have student producer Vivian from Franklin High School.
Hi, I'm Vivian and I go to Franklin High School. My documentary is called Equality for All and it discusses women's rights. My video on women's rights is about how women in society throughout the course of history have excelled and progressed in our modern society. For example, we conducted interviews with the American Association of University Women along with the Femdems of Sacramento in order to compile interviews for our documentary. My favorite part of making my video was my group. Throughout the course of making this video, we got to go out a lot and just experience different things that we have never done before in our video class. So we traveled a lot more than we usually do do, and it was our first time doing interviews, which we had never really had experience with outside of our school. So it was a nice experience to be able to communicate with people outside of our school walls. From making this video, I learned that I think communication is the most important key to any project. So communicating with your team members, communicating with your talent, and just making sure that communication is a constant focus in any project that you do. Video to me means a lot because in today's society, we often reach to media, and not just social media, but also television and all those other resources. So being able to make videos and create videos to be pushed on those platforms, we're able to spread awareness about different topics, and we're also able to just reach people. I think this video is definitely important in spreading awareness about women's rights and things that we need to change.
Women's rights, the fight for the idea that women should have equal rights with men. Over the course of history, this has taken the form of gaining property rights, women's suffrage, right to vote, reproductive rights, and the right to work for equal pay.
Personally, my thinking is to get the Equal Rights Amendment passed. The Equal Rights Amendment was written in 1923 by Alice Paul, who was a suffragette, and she worked really hard to get the right to vote. And once the 19th Amendment was established, then she went to work realizing that yes, women had the right to vote, but they were a long, long way from equal rights.
Gradually, instead of a little tiny cluster, we now have 10 million women backing this particular measure before Congress. That's 10 million women who've united through their organizations.
Throughout the course of time, women have been restricted their rights and looked down upon as weak and not worthy of doing a man's job. They are excluded and disadvantaged from decision-making and access to economic and social resources. It is difficult for them to hold positions in government, have a say in politics, or acquire proper recognition for their achievements. They are restricted against the socially constructed roles and responsibilities that society considers appropriate for women.
For me, I think definitions of feminism differ from person to person, and for me, it's an evolving definition that started way back in our country, first from our second First Lady, John Adams' wife, who said, don't forget the ladies. And then through the suffragette movement, through the women's rights movements of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and until now where we're seeing the Women's March, where we're seeing the Me Too movement, where we're seeing the We Said Enough movement. It's this ever-evolving movement to try to create an environment in America where all people are truly created equal.
Yet, gender issues are not focused on women alone, but rather on the relationship between men and women. Gender equality does not mean that men and women will become the same, but that men's and women's rights, opportunities, and responsibilities will not depend on whether they are male or female.
I would also say that one of the biggest issues to highlight is that feminism is for everyone, and feminism is not just for women who are seeking equality, but it also needs to involve allies, and even that includes men who know when to step back and let women speak. And support women, and that's something that I think is a misnomer, that it's not just for women, but it's literally for everyone involved, and feminism lifts up the entire community.
Some people view feminism and the women's rights movement as a matter that solely impacts women and only women need to fight for change. But in order for the women's rights movement to progress, both men and women will need to work together and acknowledge the basic human rights that both men and women deserve.
And incidentally, the name Now, it came about because at that luncheon, Betty Friedan wrote on a napkin, NOW, National Organization for Women. And she stressed it was for women, not of women, because we were going to have men active, and we've had wonderful men who have been active through the years.
This fight for equality has caused many feminist organizations to maximize their work for the community and advocate for what they believe in. The Femdems of Sacramento, for example, work hard to promote the feminist principles of political, economic, and social equality between the sexes.
Feminism, a lot of the times we see it as just like this big movement, right? Like the women's movement, and a lot of the times the visions that come up or things that you remember are like the suffragette movement, right? All of them marching in the streets of New York, or it's like these big dramatic movements. But really, Femdems, what we work on is like those little things, the everyday things. So it's endorsing those like local candidates, right? Staying involved on the ground level, doing those little everyday things that aren't glamorous, they're not profound in any way.
An American in its simplest definition is a native or citizen of the United States. Nowhere does this definition specify a gender or race. An American can be a man or a woman or whichever and whatever that person chooses to identify as. An American has unalienable rights to certain freedoms despite what gender they are or choose to associate with, and in order to preserve those rights, both men and women need to end the battle of the sexes and fight for equality in all areas, from the workforce to schools. Putting more women in office and acknowledging that women can be just as smart, strong, and independent as men will have us one step closer to achieving equity.
WEAVE is a primary provider of crisis intervention services for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in Sacramento County. Producers Matthew and Morgan from Oak Hill Elementary would like to share with you a few of the outreach programs that they offer, beginning by walking in a mile of someone else's shoes.
My name is Morgan. I go to Oak Hill Elementary, and my video is called WEAVE. In my video, we are telling the audience about how WEAVE helps people and helps women that are in need. In my video, I went to Kaiser Permanente, which is some of the people who raise money and make funds for the people in need, and they walk a mile in high heels. My favorite thing was taking the pictures and editing them into a slideshow. For this video, I needed photographing skills, editing skills, and walking skills. Video, it helps me learn, like if I want to be a photographer someday, it helps me learn like how to use a camera. I think it's a powerful tool because it can make an impact with, like, you can show your feelings.
Hello, my name is Matthew.
And my name is Morgan.
We're going to be talking about WEAVE Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. WEAVE provides a 24/7 response outreach and services for victims of sexual assault.
They are the primary providers of crisis help services for survivors in Sac County.
Today, they provide an array of crisis interventions.
WEAVE was established in 1975. They started their work in 1978.
I've been a part of the WEAVE Board of Directors for over 10 years now. I think it's been over 12 years now because we're up for re-election every 3 years, and I think I've done that 4 times. So part of our board service is to communicate to people in the community and to our coworkers and peers about events that WEAVE throws, and this is a great community event, and so I've been participating from the beginning.
Walk a Mile is a way that I can help people who are in need of help and bring awareness to an issue that I think isn't always covered enough in the media, and so I'm glad that I can be a part of that and make it more prominent out there and hopefully get more people to help.
The Walk a Mile means, to me, it means supporting an organization that is very, very active in supporting women who are having a difficult time in their life, that are scared, in need of help. And when the Walk a Mile came up and we realized that it was raising money for WEAVE, that we would be able to support these women, I was all for it.
For about 6 years now, but always for a good cause. Last year was the first year I got blisters though. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think I have to look forward to blisters every year now.
I found it interesting when my mom and dad were talking about it. It seemed like a fun thing to do and painful.
WEAVE has an easy escape on their website by pressing the exit button, and it immediate exit to Target as a diversion.
Many people go to the WEAVE Walk a Mile to raise awareness for women.
In 2017, the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes raised $80,000.
More than 800 people participated in 2018.
In 2018, they raised more than $250,000.
Weave and Walk a Mile help a lot of people in 1 year.
We hope that you will join, Weave, and help others.
Harassment can come in many different forms, these days including online. Cyberbullying is an issue that's been on the rise since the advent of the internet. However, bullying of any kind is not tolerated at Toby Johnson, and Aasha is going to tell us why.
My name is Aasha. I go to Toby Johnson Middle School, and the name of my video is Bullying PSA. In my video of the Bullying PSA, we just go over how kids should take their responses to adults, like really just think things through before they do something they might regret. What made me want to do my video on bullying is a lot of kids nowadays get bullied for over silly things. In my video, I want viewers to learn that they could take the bullying to an adult or a trusted one instead of having to deal with it themselves. In the production, my role was the filmer and editor of the video. I think the skills that you need to make a video is to honestly just have a positive attitude, and if you mess up, that you can just keep going and try again. My experience of all this was, it was just really fun and a great experience.
I'm walking by this girl right now, she's so ugly. Brittany, what's wrong?
Nothing.
If you're being cyberbullied, you can get help at bestrong.global.
There are only two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. While it is not possible to cheat death, some people have figured out how to cheat their way out of paying taxes. Up next, Jonathan and Lorenzo will show us what happens when there's a large wage gap in our economy.
Taxes. Everyone pays taxes. People have been cashing them out for 4,500 years. America was started because of the colonial protest against the British taxation policy in 1760. Being an American includes paying your taxes. But what happens when these tax laws go against our very civil liberties? Here are some of the loopholes or things people do to get out of taxes.
We showed that literally tens of thousands of Americans were hiding their income and their assets overseas illegally, a lot of them in Swiss banks. We went after a lot of Swiss banks that were aiding and abetting American taxpayers to avoid paying taxes.
Well, they're dishonest primarily in their tax reporting. So they either underreport their income, they claim more deductions or expenses than they're allowed. Some people will hide or transfer their assets, and claiming personal expenses as business expenses are just examples of how people can evade their taxes.
If you're running a business and you have a lot of net income at the end of the year, say that you have $100,000 worth of income, one way to avoid paying taxes, it's not evading, but it's legal, is that you go out and you buy, say you're in a construction company, you go out and you buy new trucks, so you reinvest your income into your business, because with depreciation, you can take off to $100,000 in a year. So it helps you with your business to buy new equipment with some of your profit. So that's one way.
Apple, give you an example, shifts its intellectual property to itself offshore and avoids paying taxes on almost all of it. Other corporations, for instance, hedge funds, use a gimmick, a loophole in the law called carried interest, which allows the big guys at the hedge funds to pay actually a lower tax rate than people who work for them. It's just a loophole that's in the law.
The top 1% of American households earned an average of $1.26 million in 2014. The bottom 90% quintile got an average of $33,068. And since 1965, almost 6 decades ago, income inequality has only worsened. In 2014, the ratio of CEO pay to worker wages skyrocketed from 20-1 to 303-1. Since the rich gets richer faster, their piece of the pie grows larger while everyone else sees their piece of the pie shrink by 2%. Too large of a wealth gap can be unhealthy for economic growth, in part because richer Americans save more of their income than others.
The issue of inequality, which I think actually is behind almost every controversial economic issue that we have today. It's fundamentally, I think, in my simple-minded way of looking at it, an issue of whether or not the pie gets bigger over time. If the pie gets bigger over time, we can all get better off. If the pie doesn't get bigger over time, then one person becoming wealthy must mean other people must become poor.
The question isn't whether there's income inequality. The question is whether income inequality is widening. I think that the last 35 years have seen an increase in income inequality.
Wealth gaps are never fair or equal, and they're caused by different reasons. And some of those reasons aren't fair because you have an unfair playing field in that some people have advantages they don't have any barriers to entry into being successful, whereas other people, due to various factors, could be race, could be gender, whatever, they face barriers to entry, which makes it an unfair system. And but then again, you have other factors too, where it might be somebody has the ability enter the playing field, but maybe they choose not to for whatever reasons and all that. So essentially, I think it's not a fair system if people aren't allowed equal access to enter into the same playing field. But if it's based on somebody's desire not to participate, then I don't think it's unfair. But if somebody does have a desire to participate and they're not allowed to based on various factors, then I think it's very unfair.
Having a truly progressive tax rate can only help to keep income inequality in check. Sure, the US has a progressive tax system, but in practice, there are gaping loopholes. Closing up this loophole by taxing capital gains and dividend income as regular income, and leaving a hefty estate tax are two of the several tools our society can use to fight income inequality with this tax reform.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of SEVA TV.
If you'd like to see more student videos or want to find out how you can enter to the SEVAs, please check out our website at secctv.org.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Nabayo.
Thanks for watching.